Star Trek V: The Final Frontier is not a film. Oh, it looks like a film, it sounds like a film, you can watch it like a film, but this is not a film. This is a joke. Let me explain how this atrocity came to be. You see, William Shatner wrote this one, and that's pretty much all you need to know. There were a lot of reasons this came about, mainly contractual. After Star Trek IV, Shatner was pretty much guaranteed to at least direct the next film, but one of the reasons he was given the opportunity to write a Star Trek film is because the studio liked the idea of this being written and directed by the star. They thought it would do well in the marketing. Hey Paramount, you had 3 successful films come out back to back. Star Trek V may have been the only film you ever made in the franchise where you didn't need a marketing ploy. Everyone who came to see Star Trek V was going to see it anyway. All you managed to do was to give someone who had no writing experience and a well-known ego problem carte blanche to do whatever he wants. Talk about setting yourself up for failure. I almost feel embarrassed in having to explain what's happening in this film. We start off with Kirk, Spock, and Bones on shore leave, with the 3 of them talking over a campfire, and at first you're like, okay, this isn't bad, the singing is terrible, but it's nice to spend some time with these guys. But then shore leave is cancelled, and Kirk is told that Starfleet wants him to go to a planet of galactic peace and save a few hostages. Why does Kirk specifically need to do this? No reason. The dude played by Harve Bennett tells him that he needs an experienced commander to lead this mission. But dude, come on! The Enterprise is falling apart. They don't even have transporters working. The least experienced commander in Starfleet could at least press a button and beam the hostages to safety. You're actually making this more complicated and dangerous than it needs to be. So the Enterprise sets off, and about the first half hour of this film is completely useless. We have to watch the crew of the Enterprise fight their way through all these bad guys to rescue people that we don't know or care about, and when they finally do rescue them, it turns out they were working with the antagonist all along, so what the fuck was the point of that? The antagonist is known as Sybok, who is a Vulcan and has the ability to take people's pain away, sort of. It turns out that he concocted all of this just to get a hold of a starship. Now, did I miss something here? This is a Vulcan, so he obviously doesn't originate from this planet, so shouldn't he have a ship already? And even if he just got here via transport, there are a million easier ways of getting your hands on a ship. Hell, he's got that pain remover power, so why not use it on a few officers and make them give you a ship? That's essentially what he does when he gets on the Enterprise, so what the fuck? But this taking away people's pain isn't even really that. It's more like a weird form of hypnosis. Once Sybok pulls his trick on them, the crew of the Enterprise don't even act like they got their pain taken away. They act like they've all been hypnotized or brainwashed or something. Now, the whole taking people's pain away was written in because Shatner had the idea to depict a 23rd century televangelist of sorts. The problem is that Shatner doesn't build a story around that concept. He just does it. There is a quasi-televangelist who supposedly takes away people's pain. He does gain recruits who follow him blindly, and that's all that happens. It's not a story. But it just doesn't make any sense either. Sybok isn't promising these people anything, and he's not asking them for anything except to bum a ride. He's just mesmerizing them and forcing them to act out of character. So even the metaphor doesn't work here. This isn't a televangelist, it's just a hypnotist. And no, it's not the same thing. Televangelists are much, much worse than this. After watching nothing but the crew running around the Enterprise and accomplishing nothing, Sybok finally reveals what he wants the ship for.
We have been chosen to undertake the greatest adventure of all time. The discovery of Shakari. Our destination is the planet Shakari, which lies beyond the Great Barrier at the center of the galaxy.
Center of the Dude, you do not have a TARDIS! You can't just go anywhere you want to go in the blink of an eye. The center of the galaxy is too far. You'll be stopped by half a dozen ships before you... Oh, no, I guess it was right across the street. Man, Shatner really has no idea what franchise he's writing for here, and it shows in the logic of things like that, and in the way all of the characters behave. There isn't one single person on this ship who would ever turn their backs on Kirk for a good reason, let alone listening to 10 seconds of Cybok's bullshit. But Shatner basically says, screw that, this movie is about how awesome my character is, you guys are all just background. That's freaking low. So, like he said, the reason Cybok wants to go to this place is because he thinks he's going to find God there. So why is he only bothering to fly there now? I have no idea. Oh, and it turns out that Cybok is Spock's brother. Yeah, he just never mentioned that brother in the decades he's worked with these people. Right. The whole brother angle came about because originally Spock was supposed to follow Cybok and abandon Kirk, and they figured they needed a really good reason for him to do this. But later on, Spock following Cybok got written out of the film, so I don't know why they left this in there. The whole thing about Spock having a brother was so atrocious and so poorly received by fans that to this day, it has never been brought up again in Star Trek. It's kind of like seeing your grandmother naked. We know it happened, we can't make it unhappen, so we just don't like to talk about it. Now, there's also this Klingon ship that's been following them around this whole time, but I'm not even going to get into that. Shatner didn't bother making this an important part of the film, so why should I talk about it? Basically, nothing happens until finally they get to the Great Barrier at the center of the galaxy, and both the Enterprise and the Klingon ship get in. Wait, what was that thing Kirk said about the Great Barrier?
The center of the galaxy can't be reached. No ship has ever gone into the Great Barrier. No probe has ever returned.
And yet, 2 ships made it in. Totally unharmed. Okay, so anyway, they finally get to the planet, and we find out what's down there. And it's a werewolf! Werewolf! Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's not that. It's just as asinine, though. It's... I don't even know what this is. It never says. All this thing tells them is that it's been imprisoned here for an eternity. But then later on, Cybok tells them that this is his arrogance and his vanity. So your arrogance and your vanity somehow got imprisoned on a planet in the center of the galaxy for an eternity? What? This may seem like a big pile of unwritten nothing, but believe it or not, this was better than what Shatner originally came up with. He wanted the crew of the Enterprise to actually find God. That's right, they would find the actual God and battle the actual Satan down on the planet. Not an alien mistaken for Satan, but the actual, factual Satan. Dude, this is not Doctor Who, where you can put that character in pretty much any situation and it will still make its own sort of sense. This is Star Trek. Satan does not fit here. And did you learn nothing from the studio's reaction to Gene's original motion picture script? Saying definitively that there is or is no God in a Star Trek film is off-putting. No one goes to a Star Trek movie to hear about that shit. The point about the Enterprise crew actually finding God was taken out thanks to everyone who worked on the film except for William Shatner, telling William Shatner that the audience would have too hard a time accepting that the crew actually found God. Oh, really, you think? Eventually the thing, whatever it is shot to death because I guess it's magical but it's not bulletproof or whatever the fuck, and the whole pointless film ends. I don't really have to say anything more about the film. Its reputation and reception since its release speaks for itself. I know the movie had a bunch of built-in limitations. They couldn't use ILM this time, for example. But you know what? Star Trek II had massive limitations, and they used what they had to make a great film. This is a film that just uses nothing for nothing. It was just a bad idea carried to its furthest extreme. Definitely one of the worst Star Trek films ever made, and it's one of the worst films ever made, period. So is there anything good that I can say about this film? Only one thing. No one can force you to watch this.